Well, I want to say thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I really
Oh,
appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
Um, last night you got to watch everything back, and I've spoken to Survivor players before about, having to watch all that back, and sometimes those emotions at the time resurface, they come back. How did you feel watching through everything last night?
If you've watched me out there, you know how important deep breaths are to me. If you've been paying attention, like even during a challenge, I sat down and was just like,
Yeah.
so there were a lot of deep breaths last night for sure, especially because a lot of my friends and family didn't know. I kept it very, very, very close. I really only told one person
Right.
what was happening last night, and so it was kind of a blind side for them too, as they believed that I was going to win the game. They were watching the game, and especially if you watch it from my perspective, if you're really paying attention to what when I'm on the screen. Um, you think, okay, this guy is playing a game where he could make good arguments at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And watching them go through it was kind of brutal because I I wanted it for them as much as I wanted it for myself. I want to represent my family, my friends, my community,
Yeah.
Persian people, my speech and debate team. My speech kids are watching this, and I know that. And so, watching me go home, watching me not win the immunity challenge, despite being in the lead again, was just heartbreaking for them. But sometimes you also have to show that if the only result you're happy with
Yeah.
is winning the whole thing, then maybe you need to wake up and understand the context of your life. Maybe you need to
Right.
take a deep breath and figure out that you were lucky enough to go out there twice. I got to go out there, by the way. I got to go out there twice. And I got to have an incredible experience surrounded by amazing people. These people are so cool. And now I'm in the club and I get to see it all back. And who knows? Maybe they'll call me again. I feel like I was entertaining and had a good time. And so the world of opportunities kind of opens up for you, and the Survivor fandom is so fun, so incredible that I've had an amazing time with this whole experience. So hard to be too bummed last night. It was a lot of celebration and surrounded by friends and family.
Well, you mentioned twice. So for those who don't know, explain that just briefly, could you? Why twice?
Yeah, I was an alternate on season 46, which for y'all. I was an alternate on season 46 and then came back for season 48. Partially, because who knows? Partially because I made quite an impact when I was out there as an alternate for season 46 by mostly just smiling at people. Okay? I want you to know this is what I did when I got out there. When I got out there, I did a lot of this. And and that was enough for people to be like, he's suspect. We're suspect of him. Like, okay.
Who could not be charmed by that, Shauhin?
Right. Right. But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot
Yeah.
from that experience in that, like, okay, first of all, I don't have to do much and I'm going to be noticed. Like, I don't need to do anything. People are going to notice me. This is
Right.
enough. Like, this thing right here on the stage is enough to get them to talk about me. So I don't have to do too much.
Right.
And then second, people are naturally suspect of me. So what do I
All
do in
right.
order to accommodate that natural suspicion that people have of me, especially in a game where suspicion runs rampant, right? It's also something that's helped me in my daily life. I recognize now that when I approach people, there
Yeah.
is a suspicion that just exists mostly because of media narrative. The media
Oh,
doesn't show men like me on television being honest and having integrity and being cool and not being creepy and not being shitty and not being a terrorist and not being a sleazy car salesman and not being all these things.
yeah.
And so one of the things that that obviously weighed on me when I was out there is I wanted to represent myself well so that future people like me don't get treated the way that I have been treated my entire life. And and so, okay, cool. How do I slowly adjust that aura and that vibe while still playing a winning game? That's a tightrope to navigate, and I'm proud of how I navigated that tightrope.
Now, looking back at things, if you were to assign any blame, do you blame Kyle or do you blame Joe for not listening to you, or is there equal to be shared around? How do you feel about either both of them?
I blame myself. That's
Right.
who I blame. I blame not understanding the wind that was very clear around camp. The vibe had shifted. I just either was not aware of the vibe or I attributed it to the wrong thing. And it was kind of, like I said, this earlier, it's kind of a perfect storm because Joe came off of that extremely vulnerable moment talking about his sister, that extremely emotional moment when he sees the loved one's letters from his kids that gives him the permission to do that. And
Right.
then he comes to me to have a conversation about something, and I'm talking about how someone, essed in his Cheerios.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, that's not really the vibe that we had had for 23 days. We had been so close out there the entire time, and it's something that you kind of see if you're paying attention. Like
Right.
if you're paying attention, you understand that the I woke Joe up and he's not scared because I'd done that before. I'd done that every night. I'd woken him up in the middle of the night to have conversations. We were very close. We were on the same beach the entire time except for 5 hours. That's it. And okay, so if that's the case, I should have probably read the situation better, pushed a little bit harder, got after the details of what was really going on in a gentler way with a man that I knew was emotional and I knew was sensitive, especially in that moment. And I didn't meet the moment with the right vibe. And
Well,
and I went home.
and to be fair, I mean, the conversation was very vague. I mean, unless you knew all the moving parts behind the scenes, it was hard to tell what he was getting at with you. And I was thinking to myself, like, why don't you just ask what needs to be asked?
Yeah. Yeah,
Now,
yeah, yeah.
we're looking at what's going on. When
Real
you
quick, real quick. Why don't you just ask what needs to be asked? That's also on me. You know what I mean?
right,
Getting after that question and it's very important for me in my life that I always take accountability for the mistakes
right,
that I made because you do not learn unless you take accountability. And I want to learn from this experience. Survivor can teach you so much
right,
if you let it and if you think about it that way and if you're willing to take a look in here and a look in here and see where you made your mistakes.
yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Now when you found out about the lie, what
Yeah.
was it, how did you feel about that? Obviously, you were must have been pretty shocked at what had gone down behind your back.
Shocked and a little bit thrilled. Like, don't you want to with a crazy concocted story? Like, do you want to get voted out and it's just boring? Like, no, you don't. You want people to have had to use all the bells and whistles that they possibly could in their arsenal to
Right,
get you voted out. That's what you want if you're going to get voted out. You obviously don't want to get voted out, but like,
right,
you have to take this stuff that I pulled off of Tree Mail, this stuff that I pulled off of the thing, and manufacture a lie about it that ended up with me going home. Great, excellent. Thanks, y'all. Like, way to make it fun and like well done. I respect good
right,
gameplay, like an amazing move, expertly executed with just what couldn't have been better timing. So
yeah.
awesome.
Now, obviously, you can't tell us who you voted for, but
Right.
when you were a part of the jury and you were debating, okay, what am I looking for in a winner of Survivor? What were some of the things that were going through your mind when you were debating who you were going to vote for?
Okay, so I want to know the intentionality of the moves that were made and how they served your overall narrative of a game winning game. That everybody's crafting this story in their mind of what their game winning game was.
Right.
Now, your moves have to align with that. And that I think is sometimes what fans miss about the game. Making moves just to make moves is a surefire way to go home.
Yeah.
Making moves because you think they are the thing that's going to put you in the best position to win, that's what I want to hear. And then I want to hear accountability. You hear me take accountability
Right.
for my game. I
Right.
want to hear accountability for their game. What did they use? What was in their arsenal? What was going on in their brain? And why did they do those things? And what mistakes did they make? And what things went wrong? And how did they accommodate those things? So that's what I'm looking for as a jury. And I also wanted them to know that I wasn't bitter, that I
Right.
stood and I said, good game and congratulations, and you voted out the best player and all of that stuff because, and I was genuine. I genuinely
Yeah.
feel like I was the best player out there at the time.
Right.
I wasn't the best player, obviously. I got voted out, right? Just so we're super clear. But at the time, going home, I felt like I was the best player in the game. But I wanted them to know that I wasn't bitter right away,
Right.
especially in the wake of David and how Zoolandery he had been throughout his experience.
Right.
I wanted them to know I was going to try and go to the jury and bring an open mind for
Right.
everybody make their arguments about why they should win the game, because I do believe you get to win the game at final tribal council, not before it.
Well, to be honest, I mean, we've seen in the past the best player in the season get voted out
Yeah.
for all the different threats they've made and things like that. Now, I ask this of every survivor because, again, we only get to see a small portion of your personal journey. Is there anything that you wish, whether it was a talk with someone, strategy, a move you made, is there anything that you wish fans would have seen about your journey on Survivor?
They obviously they have to tell the story of 18 people. So with respect to all of that,
Right.
I
Right.
was responsible for a little bit more than I think really the fans saw. And then also the fans saw things that they don't give me credit for. So for
Right.
example, the David vote, I got very little credit on the interwebs, which doesn't matter to me, but like very little credit for the fact that I set that up for 3, 4 days in a moment where, and this is what's missing from the conversation, I already had a ton of heat on me. Remember, I
Right.
caught the vote in the Cedric vote, and Chrissy voted for me as well and was bandying my name around. So, in a moment where I already had a bunch of heat on me, I was still responsible for the next move. And on top of that, I was responsible for the next move too. That when Star, the vote was Mary, I'm the one
Right.
who switched to Star with that conversation that I had with Joe, where I wasn't pushing super hard. I was inceptioning it out of him. Okay, but why should we do that? And asking all the right Socratic style questions in order to get him to where I wanted him to go. And yet still I didn't get credit for it, which by the way is super important to playing the game. You don't want to get the credit from the people that are in the game. You want to get the credit from the people that are out of the game. And if you go listen to their exit press, you'll see they gave me the credit for that stuff. And when I got to Ponderosa, I got my flowers from them. And it really was an incredible thing to pull up in the van. The van opens and everybody is standing there with a standing ovation. It's one of the coolest things that
Wow.
I think our cast did. And they told me, and they could have been lying because it's a game of Survivor, but they told me they would have voted for me to win the $1 million if I was sitting against anyone at the
Right.
end. And that's how I felt in the game. And unfortunately, that's how the tribe, I think, started to feel. And that's why I went home.
Now, one final question.
You
Um,
got
would you ever play again? And you're the debate guru, as we're seeing. What would have been briefly your argument in front of the jury about why you should have won Survivor?
Okay. Would I play again? Duh, right now. Like I'll leave right now and not tell anybody. Like fly me out to Fiji. I'll start in the middle of 49. I don't care. Obviously, I felt more alive out there than I have in my entire life. I lit up out there. I had a blast out there, and you see me enjoying every single second out there. From
Yeah.
taking deep breaths to opening my palms on the beach to walking around tribal council like I'm a kid in Toys R Us. Like I loved it out there. And then as far as my final tribal council speech, I would have explained that my game was Socratic consensus building. That I wanted to ask people what they wanted, build the consensus so that everybody felt like they were part of every vote. And you see that with Mitch in this last episode where he says, we're at 6. You said you were going to make a move with me. He genuinely believed that I was going to make a move with him at 6.
Yeah.
How do you believe that when I've been voting all of your allies out? Well, you believe that because I've had real, genuine connections with you. And I think that's a pretty persuasive argument for the people that I was working with and then ended up voting out, where they can feel like, man, we were all a part of Shauhin's game.
Yeah.
And that is a winning argument, I think, at the end of the day. Obviously, Final Tribal Council is an hour and a half long. I have a lot more to say, and it's not like I'm at a loss for words when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
But I also think like love of the game really does come across when it comes to me, and attitude throughout the game. Kyle picked me for reward because I brought good vibes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that also matters when it comes to the jury. And I think that other people that are left in the game did not bring good vibes all the time. And that really affects your experience. You most of the time get one shot out there, right? Most of us, even me, right? It's very likely that I'm only going to get one shot out there. And so you want that shot to be enjoyable. You're going to have this insane experience. And who was bringing the joy? Who was bringing the love? Who was bringing the, go back and watch all the clips of me hugging people and dapping people up and congratulating people. And that's also a part of gameplay that I think goes unnoticed, underappreciated, And yet it's so, so important when you're out there, not for the fans, because the fans don't get it. The fans don't care about that. They can't feel the hug,
Right.
but the people out there, they feel that love, and it's genuine for me. It's easy for me. I do love very, very easily. I want people to feel special and heard. It's my superpower, like I said before.
Well, Shauhin, it was
Yeah.
wonderful talking to you. I loved watching you on the show, and
Thank you.
I think you need to know more of this because I really appreciate your insights.
Oh,
Uh,
right on.
that your insights into the show, the experience of the game. Love to see more of this. But so all the best in the future, and can't wait to see you at the final tribal.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate your time and the questions. Really, really good questions. I got
Thank
to
you.
say stuff that I hadn't said in other interviews, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.